Okay, I think we are now ready to begin. Our state's county law libraries face an unprecedented funding crisis, even as demand for their services continues to rise. Kim Tucker, John Zorbas, and Carrie Rowan have been on the front lines of responding to these challenges. Kim is director of the Sonoma County Law Library. John is director of the Butte County Law Library, and Carrie is the director of the Contra Costa County Law Library. They will help us understand how they and their colleagues have summoned exceptional resilience and creativity to secure the future of county law library services. They will also suggest how we may support their efforts. This program is made possible by funding from the AALL Bloomberg BNA Continuing Program Education Grant. So please welcome Kim, our first of our speakers.
Good morning. Thank you, NoCal, for having us speak today to you. It was really fabulous in the last presentation to listen about bullying searching, and everybody in the room knew what that was. That was pretty awesome. So anyway, we are law librarians from the county sector, and we are celebrating 125 years of being open to the public in the whole state. So we're pretty proud of that right now. Unfortunately, we are also in the midst of a very serious crisis in funding. As you may know, we serve a huge variety of people. We serve the single mom who comes in on custody issues. We're serving bankers, business people. We're serving students, judges, attorneys, everybody who walks in the door, regardless of how much they make, unlike legal aid, who has a criteria for that. Law libraries, the county law libraries do not. We serve everybody that comes through the door. We don't care if they come from a different county or from whatever walks of life, they're going to be served. And their topics are always different. It's not just one topic that we are asked. We're helping people with child custody issues, with landlord-tenant issues, with corporate and business issues, labor, employment law. You name it, we hear it, and we answer it. The problem is the majority of the California county law libraries, our funding is diminishing. And we are supported 90 to 95% by filing fees, a portion of the filing fees from the first papers, from when a complaint is filed. For my library in Sonoma County, we receive $35 of that, the filing fee, and if somebody responds to it and they pay, we receive another $35. The problem is there are so many filing fee waivers right now because the filing fees are so high that people can't afford it. It's a statewide crisis. It's happening. The courts are having a problem with it, with their funding as well. There's fewer filings nowadays. Some people are going into mediation or into arbitration. The other thing is in 2007, the legislature put a moratorium on our being able to increase our filings, our fees. And now we have been stuck since 2008 with the same amount of dollars. And as you know, at that same time, our books and periodicals and databases are all increasing exponentially. Just changing my notes here. Hang on a second. John, Carrie, and I are going to discuss different ways that we have tried to keep our law libraries open during this crisis, and we'll give you ideas of the different creative things that we have done. And so I'm going to introduce John Zorbas from Butte County Law Library.
Well, the theme of today's presentation is, of course, money and access to justice. The strength of our organizations is our people. For those in the audience with a smartphone or other means of accessing the web, our highlights and services from Butte County are displayed on our website, www.buttecountylawlibrary.org. It's a great website. The person who runs it for me used to work for the Executive Office of the President in Washington, D.C. His wife was the United States government expert on piracy in the Horn of Africa when she was 27 years old. And her first job was working for me, putting an alphanumeric order of my 4,600 LC classified catalog cards in 1996. So I'm proud of Alice. 9 to 21 years ago, we were a research library of substance. We had to scale down considerably subsequently, owing to the steadily diminishing flow of court filing fee income that makes up our operating fund. What does it? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it spoke into the system. What was $18,103 a month in 2008 is $11,282 today. Why? Because filings and paid filings are down. Why are filings down? The Judicial Council statistics supports this. Well, mandatory arbitration clauses in consumer contracts takes away the public's right to sue. There's some pretty big studies out there that they're great for business, but the loser in an arbitration pays the cost of the arbitrator, and consumers do a lot better in court. Today, the maintained resources of the Butte County Public Law Library consist of what a modest law practice we keep up to date for day-to-day work, plus our archival holdings. And we're very thin on material that teaches litigation skills. For the majority of our patrons, we are a civil, criminal, and probate information center. Oh my goodness, I'm sorry, okay. We are a civil, criminal, and probate information center. We're one of the few places in our region where court staff, legal services of Northern California, and the sheriff can send people for legal help for things that are not provided by their own programs, or a form packet for general information. Approximately 7,400 Butte, Glen, and Sonoma County residents contacted us in 2015. We found niches where common needs are wanting, and we're attempting to meet these needs with forms packets. This way, we help people to adopt their stepchildren, answer creditor lawsuits, appeal municipal code violations to the Superior Court, structure payment plans with court compliance, correct clerical errors in court records, evict squatters, evict lodgers, evict unwelcome guests, and defend against those things too. Make motions, respond to motions, negotiate settlements with collection agencies, obtain continuances of scheduled court hearings, etc. All the CEB and Brother Practice Guides, Deering's Codes, the California Forms of Pleading and Practice, one Westlaw terminal with access to California federal material, and a scattering of individual titles. We all know that the tools required to thoroughly research solutions to legal problems are not found on the internet. Nowhere online is found free material that explains to the public the rules of evidence, the rules of procedure, and the relationship of laws to other law in a manner cognizable to a reader who's not had instruction in the law. Equal access to the courts of justice and equal access to the laws and to the materials that explain the rules of evidence, the rules of procedure, and the relationship of laws to other law requires free and open access to the material authored by publishers that fill in the gaps and that the practicing bar, depending on resources, subscribes to. Without access to meaningful materials, access to justice fails. The report Improving Civil Justice in Rural California, published in 2010 by the California Commission on Access to Justice, describes Butte's needs perfectly. There's a very wide gap between rich and poor in interior Northern California. The economics of running a practice in this region has made it very hard for the region to attract the number of lawyers needed to provide the public with effective access to a lawyer. The ability of lawyers to provide client services and unbundled or legal limited scope client services, in particular in the rural regions, is depending on the existence of infrastructure. County law libraries are that infrastructure. In 1990, the State Bar of California wrote a letter of support when a bill to increase funding for county law libraries was pending. The letter stated, "County law libraries in California represent the primary legal resource for the average citizen conducting research or preparing a case in propria persona. Often they serve as the only library available to sole practitioners and small law firms. While most public agencies and most large law firms operate libraries or maintain subscriptions to support legal functions, they also depend on the collections, the services, and the expertise provided by county law libraries to supplement their in-house subscriptions. Many county law libraries were in jeopardy in 1990 when the last piece of legislation aimed at structurally increasing the funding for county law libraries was enacted. A few of the libraries did not survive the inflationary period of the 1980s, and many are in jeopardy today. County law libraries are today lobbying the California Department of Finance and the legislature for an appropriation from the general fund. On January 4, 2016, San Rafael Assemblyman Mark Levine wrote a letter to the Budget Subcommittee in the Assembly on our behalf. The current members of Assembly Budget Subcommittee number 5 are Assembly members Campos, Irwin, Lackey, Melendez, and Rodriguez. Our Legislation Committee and President wrote a letter that I made reference to and sent to Oakland Senator Lonnie Hancock and to San Francisco Senator Mark Leno on January 29, 2016. The current members of Senate Budget Subcommittee number 5 are Senators Hancock, Anderson, and Beal. The Legislation Committee and President's letter was mailed to Governor Brown on February 4th. Kerry and I went to State Archives in 2013. We saw on microfilm the 200 to 300 to 400 letters that were offered in support of the bill that gave us new life in the 1990s. Letters are important. We're asking everyone in the audience today to reach out to Assembly Member Campos and Senator Hancock and write additional letters of support in our behalf. Please send emails to publiclawlibrarian@gmail.com and we will send you e-copies of the finished letters that we've written. Help county law libraries to meet our mission. Thank you. Now, Butte County Law Library's funding was down 36% over the last 8 years. Contra Costa, that runs 3 libraries, had its funding reduced by 41% from these court filing fees. Kerry Rowan, speaking next, will speak what Contra Costa's done.
Thank you, John. When I began working at the Law Library in Contra Costa County in 2008, we had 2 branches, our main branch in Martinez, in the county seat, as required by law, and our West County branch in Richmond. But plans were underway to build a 3rd branch in the new courthouse in Pittsburgh. At that time, we had 5 full-time staff members to staff 2 full-time libraries. Fast forward to now, we have 3 full-time branches and 3 full-time staff members. We too responded to this fiscal crisis by taking a multi-pronged approach, and I'm just going to go over 10 things that we did. Number 1, the budget. Working closely with my board of trustees, always, but especially in the past 3 years on this, we created what we call a hybrid budget. We anticipate revenues and expenditures as conservatively as we possibly can. Then we budget with a deficit built in, a necessary deficit, and we plan to use reserve funds to offset the deficit. It is workable for now, but it's not ultimately sustainable. In my opinion, it's got an expiration date of 5 years or less. Staffing reduction. As stated, nowadays, 3 full-time people for 3 full-time branches. In the old days, 5 full-time people for 2 branches. We do have part-time extra help. We have excellent part-timers for extra help. We are very fortunate that way. But it means that we can't have a full-time person at either one of our smaller branches, so we kind of have a revolving door. Materials reduction. We've cut over $100,000 worth of material from our library system in the past 2 or 3 years. We tried very, very hard to do this in such a way that we still maintain a balanced collection. We did not cut from one sole area. We've cut print, we've cut online, we cut from LexisNexis, we cut from Thomson Reuters, we cut from all publishers. The idea was to try to be as balanced and as fair as we possibly could. Again, we do not seek to punish our users. They did not do this. We still are very mindful of our obligation to offer a relevant, balanced collection based on what our users need. And we are serving more than one user group. 2/3 of our users are the general public, but we very definitely still serve the bar and the bench. Reduction of programs, outreach, exam proctoring, things like that. Our library has always emphasized outreach. And while we still do outreach, we have had to reduce it significantly. Some examples of outreach done in the past that are really no longer possible are we had a program where we went into a local high school several times, and we actually went into the classroom and we taught the students basics of legal research and how to find some good websites, some quality websites on the internet, how to use them. We tried to make it as practical as possible, and we've actually been asked to repeat that and have had to say no. Or no, not right now. We had another program that I thought went very well, where we went into the general public library, and we did instruction with public library staff, because public library staff can be very intimidated by legal reference questions. So we worked with them on we covered things like the difference between legal information and legal advice, core legal publications for a public library, a general public library, recommended websites. One of the most common questions we get is, I want to do legal research on the internet, but I don't know what stuff is junk and what stuff is worthwhile. So we actually have a handout for that. Interviewing techniques. Reference interviewing techniques for how to talk with the patron who comes in with a legal problem. And when to recognize that a question is beyond the scope of the general public library and the librarian needs to refer that person to the county law library or another program or agency. So that's had to be sacrificed. Resource sharing. All of you as law librarians know that's something we are really good about in our profession. And county law libraries do try to coordinate with other county law libraries, especially in collection development and maintenance. For example, we give and take superseded pocket parts to update our collections as much as possible. Training is another area. Our library had a very good training program for our staff, And although it was really quite reasonable in terms of cost, once we started having to make cuts, it had to be abandoned. My belief is training is always important. I once heard a personnel manager say training is even more important in hard times, and I agree with that, but I also live in the real world. We've had to abandon it because we just can't afford it. Capital projects or big ticket items, an example of how we managed in this area would be that instead of replacing our computers every 3 years, as is the recommended suggestion in the industry, we may go 4 or 5 years. Again, reality trumps everything else. Slight increases in prices. We raised the cost, for example, of using our meeting rooms. We now have 2 meeting rooms, small to medium size, that we rent out for depositions and meetings and things like that. Last year, the cost was, they rented in half-day increments, so it was $50 for a half-day, $100 for a full day. My Board of Trustees at the end of the year voted unanimously to raise it. It's now $65 for half a day, and I think it's like $100. You get a little bit of a discount if you rent it for the whole day. I think it's $130 for the whole day or something like that. $125. Court forms packets. At the end of 2013, our library began selling court forms packets. We used the library's long-standing rate of 20 cents per page, which is what we would charge for a printer copy or a photocopy. That's been our rate for more than 20 years. So we just use that as a guideline to price the packets. And we believe that this is a way of getting people into the library who may need additional help from the library. An estimated 50% or more of the people who come in to purchase a packet need more than a packet. The person who comes in and says, I need the packet to modify child support. Okay, we have that packet, so we show them the packet and we tell them the price, and many times they look at it. Uh-oh. And we are able to have material, online material, books. We may be able to refer them to a class or a workshop or some type of agency where they can get additional help. And a lot of times we have the help right there in the form of our information. So it's somewhat revenue enhancing for the law library, and it helps the court because this was originated by a court manager who said, we are losing our forms clerk and we can't really replace the forms clerk. I don't think we can do this anymore. Would the library consider doing it? That's how that originated. The cost is affordable to patrons at 20 cents a page. We don't get too many complaints. And we can assist people beyond just selling them the forms. So that's kind of a win-win thing. The last item I want to talk about is asking for help. That's another thing we've done in trying to manage this. So I just want to emphasize that we have not been passive about addressing this crisis. We have tried to be as proactive as we possibly could. Some examples. Recently, I submitted an application to my local bar association in response to an invitation. This was an application to be the recipient of a fundraiser in 2017. The funding, the usual amount of the funding, they do this annually, and it would have been significant for our library. The project was unsuccessful. Someone else was chosen, but we did submit it. We don't pass up any opportunity. We have looked for grant opportunities. Again, so far it has not come to anything, but we've been looking, and I don't think we're going to stop. I have worked with John and Kim and other colleagues. Mark Estes deserves a lot of recognition here. authoring bills, submitting legislation to elected officials, one of which was asked for by an elected official. Many trips to Sacramento, trips to the local district offices of elected officials. John referenced that he and I went up and spent a day at the archives, which was very eye-opening and fascinating. Again, I wouldn't really say that anything has developed out of this, but we have been very active in trying to find solutions. The one success I think we have had, I'm just going to reference this briefly, is Senate Bill 711, and that was not a John Kim Kerry project. That's our state organization, CCCLL. I won't go into all the specifics because I know those of you who are interested are going to look it up after this presentation. So let me now introduce Kim Tucker, who's going to talk about what's been going on at Sonoma County Law Library. Thank you.
Chance for everybody to cough. I hear all these coughers out there. I'm glad I'm not the only one. I've been with the Sonoma County Law Library since 1999, and actually ever since then, there's never been an abundance of money, but now it's severe. So I have taken different lengths, just like John and Carrie, trying to save the law library, and it's serious business. I wasn't hired to save the law library. Nobody told me when I was going to become the director of the law library that, oh, by the way, you're going to have to find funding for your 500,000 people that live in the county. Nobody told me that. I mean, I was a law librarian like you folks. Now I'm trying to save the world. It's really difficult. We do try to have a good personality about it because otherwise we'd be, in some insane asylum. Seriously. I have made some major cuts as well to my collection. In the past 3 years, about $145,000 I've cut from print material. And what I've done is, like with ALRs and Amjur proof of facts, I've moved those over to Westlaw, which makes sense. We don't need them in print. Also, there was when we had Couch Insurance and we had some bankruptcy in print, and I said, wow, I don't know how often these are being used. I also put those over to Westlaw, and recently I looked at our usage for the past 3 years, and those 2 items were only being searched two times in 3 years. So I'm on it. Those are now out of Westlaw. If somebody comes in and needs Couch on Insurance, go to Marin or go to San Francisco because it wasn't worth us keeping. And now I have a record that says nobody looked at that. And so I'm pretty proud that, I don't want to say Nazi, but, I'm kind of going through cutting everything and slashing everything. The other thing that, unfortunately, we had to cut was staff. We used to have 2.5 permanent positions with benefits, and now we have me and 2 extra help positions with no benefits. You can't keep staff that long. People don't want to stay in any kind of job if there isn't some kind of benefits to go with it. So we really need to look into that when we do get some type of money back. The other thing that we have been doing is we became an MCLE provider through the State Bar of California. And in one of our CCCLL meetings in Sacramento, probably about 2 or 3 years ago, the directors of the CCCLL, they invited George Leal, the president of the State Bar, to come to talk to us about, becoming providers. And so we're able to charge for that, just like everybody else, the bar associations. And sure, now we're in competition with the Bar Association. That didn't, pan out too well, but we really are trying to stay open. And we started off by doing one unit of credit during lunch hour. Then we ended up doing a 2-day, 12-hour, 12-credit program. And, that brought in people, and we had our local bail bonds person who was providing the lunch. And then when I don't have something like that planned, I order the DVDs from Rudder Group. And so then we show this movie during the lunch hour, and I call it, come, for pizza and a movie, $45 for the one credit. And lawyers love that, the ones that aren't on diets. They love that. But now, the ones that are on diets, next we're going to start the veggie in a video. It's all relevant. We can work with that. Our Friends group, we had several years ago, and then it just kind of disappeared. And now we have it going back again because now they're a 501c3, and they're helping us this year to raise $125,000. And we picked 125 because we need it, number one, and 125 because the law libraries are now 125 years old, and we thought that was pretty significant. The problem is that the donors don't want to just hand you over money. They want to know, what's it going to? Well, I want to say it's going to, keep our doors open, pay for books and payroll. They don't want to hear that. They want a project. But we don't have staff for the project. So it's a catch-22 with asking people for donations. That's a problem. My latest achievement, I guess, in October of 2014, I was approached by our local law school, Empire College School of Law, and they wanted to put me on staff over there. They're a nighttime school because they needed somebody with an MLIS. I said, great, I'll help you out. So in that position, I was able to see that their library, which is less than a mile away from our public library, they're spending the same kind of money we were. This isn't great for the vendors, so you guys could put your hands over your ears. So we cut out a lot of their collection, and what we did is now we carry the print collection, and we just kind of, created this really two great resources now for the law students. And so they can use their law library or our law library. We have an MOU, and I was able to save them almost $50,000 each year. And what they're doing is they're giving us $23,000 a year because I was able to cut that from their collection, their expenses. They're also sending us over a staff person starting in April next month, so we can be open on Saturdays for the public. That's huge. So we're trying everything we can. We're being creative. Let's see, what else we have going here? Well, I guess John and Carrie have talked about the initiatives from CCCLL, so I won't go into that. But, we wanted to stay open for another 125 years. That seems like a really great goal. But seriously, in Sonoma County, we would be grateful to be open for another 5 or 10 years. That's really stretching it for us. We are done with our reserves. It's completely gone. So we are working month to month. And it's kind of funny when I say that because, we all live that way anyway, right? We get a paycheck, we don't overspend. So that's kind of how I'm running the law library right now. We're not overspending. We're looking at every single item that comes in. So there's no wiggle room whatsoever. Anyway, I think that's all I came to say. But we want you to support us. We want you to write letters for us to the governor, to anybody that you can think of. We can look at what John and Carrie had. I think Carrie has a letter in the packet. Because if our county law libraries close, it's not going to be just the people in the public that are going to be affected. You guys, your law libraries are going to be affected because all of us are going to flood you guys with applications. So, thank you.
Now, there is opportunity for questions.
Yeah,
we have about
questions?
5 minutes left.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions for us?
This isn't a question, but I think a lot of us would be glad to write a letter But I wonder if making it easy by sending out something on the NoCal discussion list, and I'm speaking for us as NoCal members, with the letters and to maybe a space to add our personal comments, because I'm sure each of us has had an experience with public law library in our day-to-day work or as a citizen of your county. And then we would just be able to sign it ourselves and email it to whoever our representatives are in the legislature. Great.
Robo, that's kind of what I was suggesting. I said, if you would send me an email to publiclawlibrarian@gmail.com, I'll put my letter to Senator Lon Hancock on it to you, and you can delete out one paragraph, put in one personal paragraph, and then off it can go. That would be neat.
I think that's a great idea, and one thing I did today is we passed out a business card of mine that has my email on it. Anyone who wants sample letters, just shoot me an email, and I'll send it to you. Okay, great. No questions?
Yes, if I started a law firm on Monday with a few of my colleagues, and I went out and purchased a law library, codes, cases, some secondary sources, a special deal with one of the online sources, and a few other things that we might need to be operational. How much money do you think I'd have to spend immediately?
Without having, I would say 125,000, but it's at least 125,000.
Wow. And if I locate,
That's a guess.
and if I locate my office around the corner from your place, what would it cost me?
It's free.
So lawyers have been getting free law libraries for 125 years. You're required to provide that to them for free because the statute says you must provide free
Yes.
library service.
Exactly.
It's a nice deal. So no lawyers come in and complain. Lawyer complaints are at a historical level.
They'll complain.
One comment I have about that, our library has now 2 Lawyer in the Library segments once a month, and it's a pro-per legal clinic. And what I find, interestingly enough, a lot of the attorneys who do come around the corner and use us are solo practitioners. Obviously, they can't afford, or a mom and pop shop or something like that. They can't afford all those publications, so they use us. Interestingly enough, we find it is those attorneys and not the attorneys from the larger law firms who put their hand up to volunteer for a lawyer in the library. So, in my county at least, I feel like they are trying to give back.
Yes, so how many county law libraries are there in California?
Theoretically or in actuality?
Actuality.
Is it? You mean without even, maybe 30, you're saying 30, I'm saying 40.
30 to 40.
So here's the question is, are you at the desperate enough financial stage that we just replaced all our pocket parts in our statutes? I mean, would getting those replaced pocket parts make a difference, that kind of stuff? Even though they're a year out of date, you don't have to pay to
Yes,
update.
We're doing that.
We are doing that.
We do need more people to
Well, what if
contact us.
you sponsor, when the law firm goes and they throw their pocket parts out, or the law
Yes.
schools,
Yeah.
there's more than 30 of us. So why don't
Yeah.
we work out some deal where you adopt a county law library and send them things that they can use?
We would love
That's
that.
a great idea.
And not only that, this idea is a brilliant idea, and it would increase awareness among the attorneys at the larger firms. I can tell you, I work for a large firm, that many of the attorneys, while they benefit from the services that our San Francisco County Law Library provides and depend on those services and the expertise of the staff, don't know unless I tell them. And I don't spare any opportunity to tell it. This came from the San Francisco County Law Library. You have an answer to your question about regulatory history because Richard Schulke at the San Francisco County, and so forth. This is another opportunity. And I'll add one other comment. Large firms do pride themselves on their pro bono services. Now, this idea would fit well with the overarching emphasis on making legal services available, more available to the public. And so it would fit in with an aspect that is like that of pro bono. And I think it could be pitched to the firms, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We can have it adopt a county law library.
Yeah.
Well, why not? Because it's like every year we get a new directory and we throw out the last one.
Yeah.
So
Right.
that kind of thing, it's like, okay, we're gonna send you all the pocket parts where, you tell us what you've got
Yeah,
and what things you're looking for, and then when we're rolling it out, we put a note in our record that,
Yes.
once a month, we're gonna send you a box of stuff or something like that, and then it's stuff that's just getting in the recycle bin.
In 2007, Warwick, Harrington, and Sutcliffe sent us about 100 ALR 6th and ALR federal volumes because those had been, the sequential volumes had not been subscribed to since around 2001 or 2002. And we got some proof of facts, third series that way. Contra Costa County Law Library sends us the one-year-old updated, the one-year-old ALR pocket parts today, and has done so for 9 years. I think Carrie told me she has a box in the car right now from the October 2015 supplements or something we're going to get. For the proof of facts, for the other main ones, that we, it's like if the private bar could start adopting the county and sending those things our way, that would be good.
We need to set up an adoption program, then find out what you have that we should be, saving stuff, or what kinds of things you want
Yeah.
that we're discarding, so that would be.
Great.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, we're at 12:25, and I hate to crack the whip. I'd much rather have more time. But as it is, we're already over time. So I will have to be the rather, I'm in the unfortunate position of being the draconian discipliner, yeah. So we will now have lunch. Lunch will be served outside for